Hello students, today we're going to talk about the cardiovascular system. Our learning targets today are obviously identifying the basic structures and functions of the cardiovascular system and being able to understand how air flows through the lungs in order to get to the blood and oxygenate our blood so it can circulate throughout the body. So let's get started. First of all, let's define what the cardiovascular system is. It is a group of organs and tissues that transport essential materials to the body. Well, you might be asking yourself, what are essential materials? Well, when you think about what your body needs to survive, it needs water. It also needs nutrients from the foods you eat. It also needs hormones from your glands that secrete these hormones that help you grow, go through puberty, and do a whole host of other body functions. And obviously your body needs oxygen to survive. Every cell in your body needs oxygen. The second thing it does is it removes waste products from the body, such as carbon dioxide, lactic acid, or that fluid that may build up in the muscles, causing muscle soreness or muscle fatigue. And then there's other waste materials that your body does get rid of. It either takes it to the kidneys to get rid of that in your liquid waste, which would be urine, or it takes it to your lungs and you exhale it, such as carbon dioxide. So what are the parts of the cardiovascular system? Well, there's three. There's the heart, there's the blood vessels, and the blood. So let's talk about each one individually. First, the heart. The heart is kind of an interesting structure. It's about the size of two fists that are clasped together, and the heart is made up of 4 chambers or 4 rooms. And so you've got 2 upstairs rooms and 2 downstairs rooms. So let's label a heart and see what that's all about. The first structure is the vena cava. You have a superior one and you have an inferior one. All that means is that one's at the top, bringing blood back from the arms and the head, and one is coming from the bottom of the body, bringing blood back from the legs and the trunk. So these 2 tubes, the vena cava, they dump into this first room of the heart called the right atrium. Now looking at this, you're thinking the right atrium, but that's on the left side. Well, pretend you're looking at someone else's heart. And so if you're looking at someone else's heart, your right and left are opposite. So it is their right atrium. And if you look at the atrium, the outline kind of looks like a letter A. Then you have the right ventricle. The right ventricle is the downstairs room, and it looks like the letter V. And then when that right ventricle squeezes, it pushes blood up into that large blue colored tube, and it is called a pulmonary artery. Arteries take blood away from the heart. So if the pulmonary artery is going away from the heart and it's going out the right side and the left side, it is going to the lungs. Once you take a deep breath in, the lungs oxygenate that blood and it's brought back to the heart through the pulmonary vein. Then it dumps into the left side of the heart, or the left atrium. The left atrium squeezes and it pushes blood down into the left ventricle. The left ventricle squeezes and it pushes blood up through the largest artery in the body, the aorta. The aorta looks like it has kind of 3 little spikes on top. Well, the middle spike, or the middle tube, goes to your neck and your head, and the 2 tubes on the outer sides, on either side, the right and left side, those branch out and they go to either arm. Then, as you can see, the aorta winds down around and it goes down the back side of the heart to the lower body, and it feeds the trunk and the legs oxygenated blood. So that is the circulation through the heart. The blood vessels are pretty cool because once you branch out from the aorta or the vena cava, if those blood vessels are branching out, they branch really, really, really small, just like the branches of a tree. And they branch so teeny tiny that oxygen and nutrients actually can push their way through the walls of the capillaries. And we'll talk about that in just a second. So as blood travels away from the heart, it is leaving the heart through arteries, okay? The aorta, and then the aorta branches into arteries, and those arteries branch into even smaller arterioles. So arteries carry blood away from the heart to all parts of the body. This blood has oxygen in it. Because it's coming from the heart, it's already been to the lungs to refuel and to get oxygen. So arteries have blood in it that is oxygenated. Veins carry blood back to the heart. This blood typically does not have oxygen in it because it's given it all away. And that leads us to the capillaries. So on your diagram, you can see that you have an artery that branches and branches and branches into super, super small capillaries. These capillaries are so small that blood has to travel single file. The little blood cells have to travel single file through the capillaries. And the walls are so thin that oxygen and nutrients can actually push their way out of the capillary wall into the cell next to that capillary. So it could be stomach tissue, it could be heart tissue, it could be muscle tissue. And that is how your muscles and really every cell in your body gets nutrients, water, and oxygen, is through these capillaries. Now capillaries are so small and delicate though, many of you have had a bruise. So if you get kicked in the leg and you get a bruise on your shin, that is broken capillaries. But there's nowhere for the blood to go, so the blood pools under the skin until it's reabsorbed by the capillaries and it's taken away and recycled within the body. So capillaries are pretty incredible structures, and they're all over the human body. So now let's talk about the blood. There's 4 parts to your blood in the body, and the first one is the plasma. The second is red blood cells. The third is white blood cells. And the fourth part is platelets. So let's talk about what plasma does. Plasma is the liquid part of the blood. Your blood cells are actually pretty sticky. So if you don't have some type of liquid to wash those blood cells through those blood vessels, they would stick to the walls of those tubes, those blood vessels. So think of it as taking a big spoonful of peanut butter or almond butter and how it gets stuck to the roof of your mouth. Usually you want to reach for a glass of water or a glass of milk or something to wash down that peanut butter. That's the same thing as, it kind of correlates to the blood cells because the blood cells are sticky. They need that liquid to wash the blood cells through the blood vessels so they don't stick together and they don't clot. The red blood cells carry oxygen to the body. The red blood cells actually look like little discs or little boogie boards, for lack of a better term. And it looks like they just carry oxygen and surf all through the blood vessels all day long. The red blood cells are needed because they do carry oxygen to every single cell in your body. Your white blood cells, they fight infection. This is your body's very own army. And we're going to talk more about the white blood cells with immunity and when we talk about the lymphatic system. The last part of the blood is the platelets. The platelets actually stick together and help clot blood when there's a wound. So if you get a cut on your hand, what happens is the blood that's coming out is actually plasma, red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. But the platelets will start acting together to try to stick together, and it'll catch some of those red and white blood cells, and eventually that blood stops leaking out of your body, and that will eventually dry up and form a scab. So your platelets are very valuable in clotting your blood. So when you talk about or you think about what systems rely on the cardiovascular system, it's important to understand what body systems need oxygen to live. Well, when you think about that, every body system needs oxygen to live. So every body system, every single cell over 1 trillion of them rely on your cardiovascular system for oxygen and nutrients and water. So what body system ensures that the red blood cells get the oxygen they need to deliver to every cell? So when you think about what body system the cardiovascular system works closely with, that would be the respiratory system, because the respiratory system gets oxygen into the blood. So let's talk about caring for your cardiovascular system. The first thing you want to remember is to eat a balanced diet. Lean meats, lots of vegetables, healthy fats, and a diet that's low in sugar. Sugar tends to be toxic in the body. Healthy fats will help provide your glands with the ability to make hormones that'll circulate through your blood better. And then, of course, your lean meats and vegetables, those are low in saturated fats, which are healthy for the cardiovascular system and the whole body. Exercising regularly will increase your heart rate. This exercises your heart, which is a muscle. And sweating, picking exercises that'll help you sweat or make you sweat actually detoxifies the body. You get rid of a lot of waste in your sweat. So it's really important that you choose some activities that do get your heart rate pumping and your body sweating. Managing your stress levels is important. This can be done through the meditation or yoga, or even personal time where you put in your headphones and listen to music or draw or journal. But it's important that you find something that's going to help you manage your stress. And lastly, avoid alcohol, tobacco, and caffeine. Nicotine and caffeine tend to put a strain on the blood vessels that actually makes them clamp down so they're smaller, and that increases the pressure inside your blood vessels. With increased blood pressure, if that blood pressure gets too high, that blood vessel can rupture or burst. If it bursts and it's around the heart, that could lead to a heart attack. If it ruptures or bursts in the brain or by the brain, that can lead to a stroke. Alcohol can also adversely affect the heart rate, and it too increases blood pressure over time. So I hope you've learned a little bit about the cardiovascular system, and make sure you get completed notes and you go ahead and work ahead on the next step. Have a great day.